इतनी बाता नहीं दो तो रह जाऊं लाठोर, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता। नौ तत्वरो ज्ञान दीजो संकित साची। नौ तत्वरो ज्ञान दीजो संकित साची। अंधारो अज्ञान रो हर जो समझण पाची, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता। भरम भरम में करम कमाया, धर्म न जान्यो काई। भरम भरम में करम कमाया, धर्म न जान्यो काई। शर्म शर्म में उमर गंवाई, हाथ न आयो काई, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता। कृपा रे बरखा बरसा दो, कर दो आप समान। कृपा रे बरखा बरसा दो, कर दो आप समान। धीरज शांति भक्ति बढ़ाओ, दीजो आत्म ज्ञान, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता।
Jai Jinendra, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to our spiritual and adult class for Srijanna Vidyapit Jain School. I hope all of you are well and safe. Obviously, in this difficult time, it's important that we all make sure that we look after ourselves and each other. But despite all the negative things, you've come to a very positive evening. I'm sure you will find in the end. We've got a lovely talk tonight, and I think it will be, particularly at this time, a really valuable thing to think about, something in a different perspective. And as always, before we start, we'd like to start with a nice prayer. And today, we're very fortunate to have one of our younger students. Her name is Navya Doshi. She's 7 years old, and she's in our Praveshika class. So Navya is going to recite a lovely prayer, Navka mantra. So Navya, you ready?
Yeah. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Namo Siddhanam, Namo 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 Ayariyanam, Namo Namo, Namo Uttradyayanam, Namo Namo, Namo Loye Savasahunam, Namo Loye Savasahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sava Bhava Panasano Mangalalancha Savesam Paramam Havai Mangalam Padamam Havai Mangalam.
Thank you, Navia. That was beautifully recited. So I'm sure many of you have been really impressed by some of these students and the way that they've been able to recite our prayers and sutras, and some of you will have seen these children reciting different prayers during the Pratikama in English recently. So if you've got children, grandchildren, nephews or nieces who you think would love to learn some of these beautiful prayers, please try and get them to come along to some of our classes and hopefully pick up some of these new prayers and also make some friends. I know Navia is enjoying her classes there. So thank you again, Navia. Okay, so today we are going to be treated to this book. Don't know if you can probably see it with the, I think it's called Walk With Me. We've been studying it over the last few weeks, doing different chapters. And today we've got Hina Ben Vora, who has been one of our adult class teachers for many, many years. A very learned teacher who's achieved a master's in Jainism and really knows a lot about our philosophy. So Hina Ben Vora is going to go through chapter 10 today. So can I please ask Hina Ben to share her screen?
Thank you, Pramit. Thank you, Pramit. I'm coming back. Can everybody see it now?
Yes, perfect, Hina Ben. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pramit, for a very good introduction. I'll start my talk with I bow down to the lotus feet of Lord Mahavir, Puja Sri Acharya Ji Jannaji, Sadhviji Silabiji Maharaj, and other Sadhvijis. Dear sisters and brothers, Jai Jinendra, good evening. As Pramit said, we are studying the book Walk With Me at the moment, and we have seen so many good chapters and so many teachers have talked about it, and we have seen some very important events of Lord Mahavir, and especially from the Gautam Swami's eyes, which was really interesting. Now, before we start, I would like to ask a question. What is Anekantvad? So if you could all use your Zoom chat, and I'll give you a few minutes and give me your thoughts on what is Anekantvad. Anything from me?
So we've got a few different points, Ben. So Bindisha says multiple viewpoints. Parul says, is it the truth? Different perspectives, different viewpoints or way of seeing things. Looking at a viewpoint from different points.
Excellent. So this in itself is an ekantva. All of you are right in your own way. So I would just thank you all for your responses. So as the word anekantvad is compound of two Sanskrit words, which are anekant and vad. Again, anekant is word which is compound of three Sanskrit roots, which is ane, that is not, ek means one, and ant means and. Okay, so together it signifies not one-ended or one-sided. That means many-sided or manifoldness. The word vad means doctrine, or you can say speak or thesis. Yeah. So thus the term anekantvad is translated by scholars as the doctrine of many-sidedness, not one-sidedness or many-pointedness. Okay, so the truth is expressed in many ways. One cannot make definite statement about truth or existence. Each statement is true in its own limited sense. Now this happens because we don't have Kevajnan. We cannot see everything. We only can see the part of the thing. And that is why Anekant is very important. Seeing entity from all direction is Anekantvad, but we cannot as we don't have Kevajnan. This is the very unique theory presented by Jain to the world. So today we are going to look at the very beautiful example of this theory and its beautiful outcome. Really, when you apply Anekantvad in any aspect of your life, it always brings really good result. Okay, so now I would ask you another question. Who was K.C. Kumar Shraman and who was Indrabuddhi? Okay, Pramit, is there anything?
Okay, so we've got less comments. One says followers from Parul. And I put Parshvanath follower and Gautam Swami. Then Sandepai says he was a follower of Parshvanath and poised posed many questions to Gautam Swami.
Excellent. Okay, so we will move on. I will give you a little bit more detail about both of them. So there was a gap of 250 years between Parshvanath Bhagwan, our 23rd Tirthankar, and Lord Mahavir, our 24th Tirthankar's religious order. So there were 250 years of gap. Now, therefore, when Lord Mahavir's religious order started, the followers of Parshvanath Prabhu were still around, and K.C. Kumar Shraman was one of them. Lord Mahavir actually too was raised in Parshvanath tradition. Yeah. So why was he called K.C. Kumar Shraman? Is because Parshvanath Prabhu's third successor was Acharya Samudrasuri. In his time, Acharya called Videsi came to Ujjaini town, and with his preaching, Prince Kesi Swami, his father, the King Jaisan, and mother, the Queen Anang Sundari, they all three renounced. Since Kesi Swami got renounced at a very young age, that is why he was called Kesi Kumar Shraman, because he was very young. He was highly scholar monk, although he was very young, and he he was totally following the path of three jewels, that is Samyak Gyan, Samyak Darshan, and Samyak Charitra, and he had three Gnan, which is Mati, Shrut, and Uttradyayan. So this is K.C. Kumar Shraman and Indraputi. So as you all mentioned that he is first disciple of Lord Mahavir. His father's name was Vasubhuti and mother's name was Prithvi, and their family name was Gautam. He was from Gautam Gotra. Maybe that is why most of the places in our Agam he is called Gautam. He had four types of knowledge, that is Mati, Shruta, Avdi, and Manaparyagyan, that is sensory knowledge, scripture, clairvoyance, and telepathy. Also, he had the knowledge of 14 purvas, or that is our original scriptures. Thus, both were the followers of Jain religion, but belonging to different Tirthankars. Lord Mahavir was constantly traveling from one kingdom to another, one place to another, either invited or uninvited. Why? Because he wanted to spread the new, he wanted to spread the message of ahimsa. And while he was traveling, sometimes some of his monks would join him, they will go with him, and some of his monks would go in another direction with few more monks. So this is how they used to travel from one place to another. And during one such voyage, few monks and Gautam Swami arrived in Shravasti city. So Lord Mahavir was at some other place at the time. So Gautam Swami and some monks, they came to Shravasti city and decided to stay at Kostak Gardens, which was on the edge of the city. Now that very same evening, Gautam Swami's colleagues discovered that K.C. Swami and his group were camped in Tenduk Garden. So at the other end of the city was the same, but two different gardens. At one, Gautam Swami and his disciples were staying, and the other one, K.C. Swami and his monks, they were staying in the same city. The monks used to see each other when they all went on a Gochri round. And so when they saw each other, they used to talk to each other and they wondered, even though both the groups' ultimate goal was the same, then why is there a separate sangha? So not only to find the answer for the same, but meanwhile, Gautam Swami had already decided to see K.C. Swami because this used to be the rare occasion that they would be in the same town. So, so while he was going to see K.C. Swami, and some of Gautam Swami's monks asked him that why is it so? Why are we following the different? Why do we have different sung, although our goal is the same? So, needless to say that Gautam Swami and K.C. Swami both knew the answer to this question, but thinking that it is better to clarify this in front of the monks and other Shravak and Shravika, they decided to meet up. Now, what does this prove? This is the greatness of great people. Whenever they discussed anything to do with the religion, they always wanted to discuss in front of their monks. This incident is the ideal example of generosity and right thinking at the right time. Leaving aside sectarian differences as well as clothes, both met up to compare their thoughts, and synthesis is the ideal example of Anekantvad. All the town people also came to join, thinking that now in those days, anything like this would happen. They always think that two scholars have met and there will be a long debate, and they were always curious to see who is going to win. Therefore, even all the town people came when where this was taking place, and they wanted to see who is winning. K.C. Swami welcomed Gautam Swami and his son with warmth and respect. Think about it. K.C. Swami is older, and he's in age also he was older, and he has followed religion longer than Gautam Swami. Yet K.C. Swami welcomed Gautam Swami and his son with warmth and respect, and offered Gautam Swami a seat by his side on the dais. Though much more senior and from a more ancient tradition, K.C. Swami did this. Okay, and not only that, we would think that Gautam Swami would ask the question. Instead, K.C. Swami started asking the questions. So the first question K.C. Swami asked is to Gautam Swami. Parshva preached that a monk must observe 4 vows, namely Ahimsa, Satya, Achaurya, and Parigraha Pariman. But Mahavir speaks of 5 vows, the 5th being celibacy. Why do we have this difference in the final goal if the final goal is the same? So K.C. Swami is asking this question. Now, you see, until our 23rd Tirthankar, they all 23 Tirthankar, they preached only 4 vows. They did not preach celibacy separately. So when they preached 4 vows, that was called Chaturyan Dharma. But Mahavir Swami separated celibacy, and that is why his dharma was Panch Mahavrati dharma. Okay, so K.C. Swami asked this question. Gautam Swami answers it so nicely. The followers of the first so he says the followers of the first Tirthankar were Saral and Jad, which is in Gujarati how we say Jad, yeah, ignorant but simple. From 2nd to 23rd Tirthankar, followers were simple and wise. And last Tirthankar are Vakra and Jad. Now sometimes this Vakra and Jad in different books has been translated different way, perverted and ignorant, or somewhere it says smart but vulnerable. So this was the difference in the followers of the monks or the monks, and that is why this was the difference. This is the main reason for the duality of doctrine. It was difficult for ascetic disciples of the first Tirthankar to understand the code of conduct in its pure form, whereas it is difficult for ascetic disciple of the last Tirthankar to practice it in its pristine form, because they were Vakra and Jad. However, For those of the 22 Tirthankars, it was easy both to understand and to practice. Thus, 4 ethical vows were sufficient to guide for the ascetic followers until the last Tirthankar's time. But the last Tirthankar's ascetic disciples are ignorant and perverted. Due to that, they did not follow the rules of the monks easily. Even if they did, they always have doubts in everything, and for that, they would get trapped between what is right and what is wrong. They are smart but vulnerable to the declining ethical standards of the society. Hence, it is difficult for them to practice it in its pristine form. Therefore, they needed detailed clarification, and that is why Lord Mahavir separated it. Although up to 23 Tirthankar, they always meant to have this like the celibacy, but it was included into non-possession. And in those times, ladies used to be, they were treated as a possession. So it was there. But for 20, Bhagwan Mahavir separated it just because that time the people were such that he needed to separate it. Gautam Swami explained that the philosophical basis of any tradition is wisdom. Knowledge and ethics are the foundations of wisdom. Whereas knowledge is eternal and innate, ethical concepts change with time, place, and society. A.C. Swami was really pleased with Gautam Swami's answer. So now he is asking another question. So A.C. Swami asked again, whereas we from Parshva's tradition wear divine yellow robes, why have Mahavir's monks shunned all clothing? See, until Parshvanath Bhagwan, there was no rule to wear any particular clothing. In fact, they were allowed to own and as many they want and as expensive they want until Mahavir Bhagwan's time. Now, let's see what Gautam Swami has to say. Gautam Swami replied, clothes do not help anyone in his sadhana, and they are of no real use. In reality, both Tirthankars have repeatedly said that the rational vision, rational knowledge, and rational behavior are their 3 jewels that pave the road to moksha. That foundation is common to both traditions anyway. For the first and the last Tirthankar, for the monks, it was important to make some sort of rules as they were judged. They did not understand. So they needed to be told what is to be done and for what. And so important to make some sort of rules, as we saw previously that they both were judged. Yeah. Whereas in between the 22 Tirthankar, the followers were they were intelligent enough to understand why any rules were made for them. Now, so it is through specialized knowledge that the instruments of the religion have been determined. Now, this, as I think once some time ago, I have always said, whenever some changes needs to be made, it has always to be done through a specific. The real word is vignan, but we can translate it in knowledge. And this can only be done by acharyas. They discuss it and then they do it. So there are 3 reasons for the importance of any instrument. Now they have used the instrument word is because these are all the instruments. They are just there to help you. They are not the final goal. They are used for monks. So which are the 3 reasons is recognition by people. So some mean people, just to earn the fame, can pretend a sadhu and make people fool. In that case, the real sadhus suffer and do not get the proper attention. And especially this happens when they go out on their butchery round, or even if they need some clothing and all that. So this is one reason. The second reason was to live a monk life, especially during the rainy season. So why? Before it was like, if we see some monks, they always just beg, like have their gotri in their hands. But some monks have the patras and all that. So why? Because in rainy season, some old sadhus or any tapasvi sadhu cannot go out for gotri. Therefore, young sadhus need to go and get their food as well as rajoharan just for the Jivdaya Palan and clothes to look decent in the public, especially the nuns. Yeah, so that's why it is important. The third reason is for the ascetic. It is the constant awareness that I am an ascetic. Now, this is very, very important. Even when you renounce, okay, you start wearing white clothes and you live in that world, but mentally, your mind is always wandering, and sometimes even after they have become sadhus, it is difficult to keep your mind under your control. So sometimes their clothing, the way uh, they are carrying their rajoharan and all that reminds that they have renounced the world. Okay, and here I would like to cite one example of as you can see in the picture, Prasan Chandra Rajarsi. As you all know that Prasan Chandra Rajarsi renounced the worldly pleasure and left his kingdom to his son. Although the son was very young, with the trust that a trustworthy minister will guide his son, so he left his kingdom. Now, walking on the spiritual path, he used to meditate a lot. His meditation really amazed all the passers-by. As you can see in the picture, how he used to meditate. As he was standing with one leg up and both arms raised straight above his head in a chilling cold wind. So while going to Bhagwan Samosaran once, Emperor Srenik also was amazed looking at him. Some royal generals that followed King Srenik also praised him for his finance, but one jealous person called Darmok taunted. And what did he say? He said, while he is standing over here for a victory over his mind, on the other hand, his son has lost a war and his kingdom. The kingdom and his life both are at stake. So, this comment disturbed Prasenjit's meditation. He started feeling really annoyed about that trustworthy friend who he left with his son, and he started to think about the ways to rescue his son and fight the enemies himself. So the monk was no longer the man in meditation, but a king on the battlefield. At this time, King Shrenik asked Bhagwan that with this deep meditation, where would he be born if he passes away this very moment? And Bhagwan said, he will go to hell. Just because at that moment Prasenjit was engaged in fighting conspirators. While Prasenjit was fighting mentally against his conspirators, he very violently discharged his weapons one after another, and soon his weapons were exhausted. But the foes were not destroyed. As a last resort, he therefore thought to hit them with his heavy crown. But as he went to get his crown, his hand reached the head to get his crown, and he touched his shaved head. That jolted his attention. He suddenly remembered that he has been initiated into the vow of equanimity and non-violence to all living beings. Prasenjit critically reviewed his serious lapse once again, concentrated on quiet meditation, and started repenting for his offensive indulgence. Thus, while Prasenjit was going through the thoughts of revenge, Bhagwan said if he had died, then he would go to hell. But when he realized his lapse and repented, he acquired omniscience. Thus, from this example, we can see that to be in Muni Vesh, that is the uniform of Muni, it helps them to realize that they have renounced the world and are on the path of monkhood, especially when they have difficulties. In our agams, the word is used parisa, that is difficult and difficulties. So those difficulties sometimes is very cold, very very hot, but they still have to bear all those difficulties. Sometimes they get food, sometimes they don't get the food, but so, in all these difficulties, it's a human nature. When you are in a real difficult time, sometimes you forget your morals, and it can happen. But having the right uniform or their whatever they are wearing, it reminds them that they have renounced the world. As we say, the instruments are not the goal, but important to achieve the goal. Although just the way when we are fasting, is fasting our goal? No, fasting is not our goal. It is just the instrument to progress on a spiritual path. Okay, so then Gautam Swami was really pleased, Kesi Swami was really pleased with his answer. Then he is asking another question to Gautam Swami. Gandhar Gautam, life is an endless battle with thousands of enemies. Who are these enemies and how do we defeat them? So Gautam Swami answers, our passions, our passions are our enemies, and victories over our passions ultimately enable us to achieve the greatest victory. Here, Gautam Swami is trying to say, by winning one, we can win five, and uh, by winning this, we can win all these five, and by winning five, we can win 10. This is how he is explaining. Of course, it's not in the book, but I have taken it from the Uttradyayan Sutra, and it's been explained very nicely there. That first of all, so the one is our unconquered mind, as you can think of it, and our own self is adding to this. Then because we have unconquered mind, then we are always indulged in anger, greed, deceit, and ego. So instead, if we develop forgiveness, humility, honesty, and contentment, then we win our kasais, and then we are not going to get involved in any wrong activities. While we have this anger, greed, deceit, and ego that makes us go, they also bring our senses with not in control. Yeah, they always want to do something which is not taking us onto the right path. So all the like as I said, with the right forgiveness, humility, honesty, and contentment, then we win our kasais, and then we are not going to get involved in any wrong activities of our five senses. As that too are our foes, conquering all these 10, one can move about smoothly on the path of spirituality. These are main enemies. Once we get these things under control, then the path is smoother. This is how Gautam Swami explained to Kesi Swami. So now Kesi Swami has another question. He is asking, a poisonous plant grows in all our hearts and bears destructive fruits. How can one destroy this plant? Now, Gautam Swami is answering, what is poisonous plant? So Gautam Swami is saying, our urge to remain trapped in samsara, that is, I'll come to it again, but Gautam Swami first he says, eager desire of existence is the name of the tendril. Our urge to remain trapped in this endless cycle of death and rebirth is the poisonous plant, rooted in every heart. Repeated birth and deaths are its destructive fruits. Sadhana, Samyak Darshan, Samyak Jnana, Samyak Charitra uproot that plant and liberate our soul. So basically, all this happens when it starts with the greed. Greed is the plant that grows and gives the fruit of anger, deceit, and ego. This keeps in the cycle of samsara. Now, to stop this plant of greed grow and destroy, three jewels are the key. There are some very popular example, like, when we were young, we were told the story of King Midas, how he was mad about the gold. And then we have in Jainism, this another story is always given. The guy is waiting for that drop of honey, and then only he would survive. So really, you can find so many stories, but basically, greed is the one that keeps us in this samsara. Okay, so like this, K.C. Swami kept on asking questions. So in the end, K.C. Swami was lobbing more and more questions and energetically. Now it is not possible to go through them all in 1 hour, but as I say, I have taken some of the things from Uttradyayan Sutra, and it is so beautifully written. The whole chapter is on this K.C. Swami and Gautam Swami's dialogue, and it is chapter number 23, and the name of the chapter is K.C. Goyamichyam. And you are all, it is going to be on this new program that is going to be done from Veerayatan. They are doing this Vyom program, and they are going to do Uttradyayan Sutra as well. So I would highly recommend you all to join in. It's a beautiful agam, and it is called Uttradyayan. Why? Because Uttar means answers. So in that agam, you will almost find all the answers, whatever we have in today's day and age. So I urge you all to join in there. And this whole conversation between Gautam Swami and K.C. Swami is described at length. There are at least about 84 slokas in there. Basically there are 12 questions being asked by K.C. Swami. So, but we have taken some main questions here. It really reflects the high knowledge of Gautam Swami. Not only that, but it shows us the depths of our religion. So this chapter is really beautiful. As such, as I said, it will be really good to join in this program on Vyom. Okay, so in the end, Gautam Swami summarized all the answers in this book, the one that we are following, with the best of his ability and the knowledge given to him by Mahavir Swami. So let's just read it out from the book as Gautam Swami summarizes in his own words. I summarize Bhagwan's words. Knowledge is eternal and does not change with time. It is an internal achievement of the learned. However, our ever-changing conduct is subject to the influences and pressure of time, place, and popular culture. In a way, our conduct is shaped by the perceived norms of our society, while the same society is influenced and molded by our conduct. Social changes evolve from the interplay between human inspirations and the behavioral norms of the society. Since knowledge does not change with time, the message of Bhagwan Parshvanath and Bhagwan Mahavir is the same. Both preach to know the self is the ultimate goal of life. However, every society, every Sangha, and every organization shapes its own ethical codes. Over the years, these codes change because of greater insights of laxity, carelessness, ego, and social pressure. Such change can rapidly take an individual or a society to unprecedented heights or on a wrong and undesirable path of destruction. Mahavir's five vows and the path to reach Kevalgyan, that is enlightenment, have evolved from this awareness. Following them is essential for the smooth and efficient sorry efficient operation of the Sangha. Rational knowledge contributes to rational conduct, and rational conduct is essential for gaining rational knowledge. So this was the brief given by Gautam Swami, and this is how he answered all the questions which were asked by K.C. Swami. So, with the amazing answers given by Gautam Swami, this is what K.C. Swami says. Our ideas are common and we share some goal. What is the point in following different paths? Mahavir has advanced Parshvanath's concepts by developing a more effective path to liberation. I have therefore decided to merge my Sangha with Mahavir's with Mahavir. So let's go to Bhagwan Mahavir's camp. So basically he's deciding to go to Mahavir's camp because he wanted to accept Mahavir Bhagwan's Sangha. So disciples in both the groups realized how close, in spite of the apparent differences in some rituals, the two groups decided to merge into single entity. K.C. Swami and all his 500 disciples gets initiated with Bhagwan Mahavir Swami. So here I would like to ask the question, why does K.C. Swami and his disciples, they need to go and get initiated again? They were already initiated. Why do they have to go again?
Okay, Hinatan, we've got a few
Yeah.
responses. So Bakulbai says, as they had a new guru, Mahavir Swami. Pragnaben says, to join a new organization, one needs to initiate. Bindiben says, in order to follow the fifth vow. They're accepting a new guru.
Excellent. So we have some very intelligent people there. Yeah, normally that is the case. Normally when any Tirthankar establishes their Tirth, the monks from the previous Tirthankars have to enter into the new Tirth. That is, just accept the new Tirth and start following the new Tirthankar. Then only they will achieve Keval Jnan. And this is how the process works in our Agam. This is mentioned in our Agam that they have to start following new Tirthankar. Now, the only difference here is all previous Tirthankars had Chaturyam Dharma, so they don't need to renounce again. But because Mahavir Bhagwan had Panch Mahavrati Dharma, they had to go and renounce again with Lord Mahavir. Okay, so this is the only difference. Otherwise, previously, all 23 Tirthankar, they didn't need to do that. Okay, now, next, I would like to have some thoughts on the personality of Kesi Swami and Gautam Swami. What do you think of their personality?
Okay, so we've got a few more comments now. So we've got a comment says they're open to dialogue and open to new thinking.
Yes.
Humble and respectful to each other. Humility and mutual respect. Another comment here. It says they were both very learned and full of questions, full of Vinay and Vivek. They're keen to find the right path.
Excellent.
And our scriptures have come about because of them.
Excellent. So, as per the book, the one that we are following, we will look at some of them from Gautam Swami's point of view. How was Kesi Swami? So, Gautam Swami thought Swami Kesi is the embodiment of the Shraman doctrine of Anekanpat, such a forward-looking monk. For him, a dissenting opinion is not an obstacle, but an opportunity to learn more about absolute truths. He had a simple, intellectual, and honest focus on the unity of two traditions for the betterment of the Shraman path. Although he is a senior in an ancient tradition and has 500 disciples, yet he welcomed Gautam Swami, listened to him with respect, and honored them by telling his disciples to join Mavi Prabhu's Sangh. Shows his greatness and no ego. And let's look at from Kesi Swami's point of view, how was Gautam Swami? So Gautam Swami was very intelligent and very capable in answering from the right perspective and very thorough. Now, as I mentioned, there were some more questions asked, and you will find them in Uttradyayan Sutra. And some of the questions, when you read, any normal person we wouldn't even understand what he is trying to ask, and how beautifully Gautam Swami answers all those questions. So really it takes us to the root of our religion. And he was always polite and respectful, even though being such a learned person, he was very far-sighted thinking. He has very good thinking. So these qualities have helped both of them to reach the very important aspects in Shraman tradition. And to summarize the benefits of the conversation between two, I would like to quote the last slok on number 88 of the chapter number, as I said, 23, Kesi Goyamijam of Uttradyayan Sutra. So the slok goes like this: Kesi Goyamayo Nityam Tammi Asi Samagame Suya Sila Samutkaso Matatta Vinichao. So what does it mean? In the continued meeting, in exchange of Kesi and Gautam in Tindu garden, scriptural knowledge and righteousness were brought to eminence and many great doctrines were affirmed. As this is very important, to eminence and many great doctrines were affirmed. So there were no difference of opinion. So that is due to this meeting, making the right decision about Mahavrat's truths and fundamental principles that leads to moksha was achieved. What a great achievement just by discussing. Now, Acharya Channaji Maharaj has translated this Uttradyayan Sutra, although it is in Hindi, but it is so beautifully translated and given a commentary on each chapter, and it is really worth going through it. And she has written for this chapter her commentary. I mean, I'm just giving you in a very short sentence that according to her, this chapter gives the right solution to all the doubts and the options that arise in the spiritual world in each era. So beautifully she has, so rightly she has said this, and this is her comment about this chapter. So now I would like to end my talk with the quote from the book. It is about time that the monks and indeed the entire fourfold Arhat Sangh understand the importance of unity and do what is best for the Sraman community. Lastly, during my talk, if I have said anything against the religion, I say Michami Dukram to all of you, and thank you all for listening to me. Now, please feel free to ask any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Hina Ben. So today's talk was really insightful. Personally, I really enjoyed the little chart which you showed us, where if we can conquer our mind and our senses, then we can overcome our internal ego, deceit, greed, anger, all of those things. It's a really nice slide which illustrates the point really well. I think you really brought this chapter to life. Over to everyone in the audience. Does anybody have any questions about what Hina Ben was discussing today, or want to bring up any comments that they wanted to make about the chapter in Anekantvad? Please put them on the chat and we can discuss and share those questions. Okay, while everyone is thinking, if you allow me, I'm going to just share my screen just to show you. Hopefully you can see the website. This is our website, scvp.org.uk. Hina Ben mentioned about the new launch of the Veerayatan Way of Life, Vyom, series of lectures. So if you go to our website and you go to What's New, you'll be able to see there's a detailed timetable here. Maybe you may not be able to read it so clearly, but if I just expand that, you'll see on Monday evening, or India time, 7 o'clock, so around 3:30 UK time, Sadhuji Sangmitraji is doing a session on Uttradyayan Sutra on Mondays and on Wednesdays. But there's lots of very, very interesting sessions and from the Sadhvijis as well as Acharyaji. This includes sessions being held here in London, in India, and in Nairobi. So please do go to the website, have a look at this, see what may be of interest to you, and please feel free to join any of those classes. You can also go onto this website, veerayatan.org. It's called Way of Life Vyom, and that will also take you to the same timetable. So you'll be able to see those details. Also on the chat, you'll find the details that for the Viom, so you can click on the chat. You can find out from Facebook as well. So there's plenty of ways for you to look up those details. Okay, right. So have we got any questions? Okay, Nina Ben, I think
If
you've
they
done a
don't
good.
have, I have a question for them.
Okay.
I haven't put it there, but just while I was talking, I just thought. So can I have your thoughts on, are we all fine to have all these different organizations that we have at the moment? Some people are like following Srimad Rajchandra, some people are like, we have SCVP, and then we have JVB, and all different organizations. We are all joined. At the end, our goal is the same. But what is your opinion about it? Is it good to have them all, or is it confusing?
Right. Okay, so over to everyone. If you don't ask a question, you get asked a question. This is how it works.
Because I have been asked at the school so many times that where do we go? There are so many things happening. We don't know who to follow, where to go. So I'm asking you that question today
Okay.
because the chapter was relevant.
Yes. So there you go. So where do we go? What is people's opinions or thoughts on that? Okay, so we've got one here from Alpa Ben. She says, I think it's better to stick to one unless you have a very broad understanding.
Very good.
Otherwise, you can get confused, is the other comment. So
Yes, very good.
there are many groups because of different interpretations. There is room for all to coordinate a bit better and work together. In America, there is Jaina. Then Shandipai says, very difficult to answer as people's needs are very different. People should follow whoever they want to go to, but not be going from here to there and choose where they want to follow. Very helpful. It's good that we're learning from each other.
Mm-hmm.
What are the differences between them, all if they say that they all relate to Jainism? That's a very good point. I mean, Veerayatan and SCVP has always made it very clear they're very non-sectarian and they're following Mahavir Bhagwan's message. So that's always been a central part of what Veerayatan stands for. As an individual, decide on your own journey and then find the best support. Don't use the excuse of too many groups to start your journey. Very good point.
Very good point.
It's good to follow one path until you reach your ultimate goal, but all paths ultimately lead to one. Yeah. We can see that obviously even in the chapter that you described, the ultimate truth is the same, but we may have slightly different perspectives, which is obviously the title of the chapter.
Yes, I think we are all different, isn't it? And then as long as we know that we are working towards one goal, however way is comfortable for you, suitable to you, you choose one. So there is nothing wrong as long as we know what we are to achieve, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's the important underlying message, that we all want to progress. So you have to find a route or path and then try and follow to progress yourself as an individual.
Very good.
Okay. So thank you very much. If there's no more further questions, before we finish with a prayer, I just wanted to let everyone know next week we got Vinod Bhai Kapashi. Many of you will know him very well. He's done many of our talks in the past, so you can look forward to hearing him next week. And please do tell your friends and family about these classes. We want as many people as possible to benefit from them. And just in terms of the questions we've just been dealing with, it's really great if you can share this information with as many people as possible so people can all benefit from it. Do have a look at the website for details of these other talks if you're interested. Now we've got so many resources available. Yes, there is a difficulty of choosing, but you've got a choice now and you can have no excuse really to find something that will help you. Okay, I think that's all the announcements. Can I ask Hina Ben to end the session with a prayer?
Thank you very much, Ramit, and thank you all for listening to me. So let's just pray together, all of us. Chattari Mangalam Arhanta Mangalam Siddha Mangalam Sahu Mangalam Kevali Panato Tamo Mangalam Chattari Lokuttama Arhanta Lokuttama Siddha Lokuttama Sahu Lokuttama Kevali Panato Tamo Lokuttamo Chattari Sharanam Pavachami Arhante Saranam Pavachami Siddhe Saranam Pavachami Sahu Sharanam Pavachami Kevali Panato Tamo Sharanam Pavachami Utsargakshayam yanti chityante vignavalaya Mana prasannatameti pujimane jineshwari Sarva Mangalya Mangalya Sarva Kalyana Pradhanam Sarvadharmanam Jainam Jayati Sasanam Jainam Jayati Sasanam. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you very much, Hina Ben. Excellent talk today. Thank you everyone for attending. We hope to see you next week.
शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर शांतिनाथ शांति